Do you remember this story? A young boy possessing unbelievable talent and a deep love for Disney and Square discovers Kingdom Hearts in 2002.
Hold on, Final Fantasy with Disney? What the hell? Oh, actually, this is pretty cool.
Despite understanding maybe 80% of what was happening in the story, he enjoyed his adventure and looked forward to future games.
Okay, so this game is supposed to bridge the gap to the second game or something. Oh, crap. They got 3D graphics to work on a GBA? Okay. Not sure about this card combat stuff, though.
With great anticipation, he counted down the days until Kingdom Hearts 2.
Okay, that Roxas stuff was really long, and kinda glad that's over, but hey, I can't wait to go see Mulan and Pirates of the Caribbean.
After completing Kingdom Hearts 2, the wait for Kingdom Hearts 3 began. Little did he know that the wait would be a long one.
Wait. So, it's pronounced 3, 5, 8 days over 2? What does that even mean? It's not even how it's written.
He waited and he waited, playing every spin-off game he could on every platform he owned. Except for Recoded, which is apparently pretty skippable.
Okay, that was probably one of the best PSP games I've ever played, and it was really confusing too, though I'm pretty sure this series is just Star Wars now.
He began to wonder if a third entry would ever come.
Whoa. So wait, how have Sora and Riku not proven themselves Keyblade Masters by now? Haven't they saved the world like 50 times? They should be like valedictorians or something. Just pass them through the exam and move on.
Then a miracle! Kingdom Hearts 3 was finally announced. His wait would last another 5 years or so, but now he knew that the game was on the horizon.
Okay, I can't get this stupid mobile game to work on my phone. I should probably buy a new phone.
Finally, after enduring years of breadcrumbed info and a few more delays, Kingdom Hearts 3 was here.
Alright, Kingdom Hearts 3 releases in a few days. Looks like now's the perfect time to finally play that Aqua thing and the 2.8 thing. And I've also got about 3 story summaries queued up on YouTube. The next 8 hours should be pretty fun.
And now the question becomes, has it been worth the wait?
Hey everyone, my name is Marcus Stewart, and welcome to Marcus Talks About Games, and we are officially living in a new era, because it is a post-Kingdom Hearts 3 world. I didn't think this day would ever come, and to be honest, I'm still not totally sure how to react to it. I'm adjusting to it feels like the sights, like the colors are brighter, the smells are sweeter, sounds are sharper than ever before. You might even say that, as the kids like to say, we are living the best life now. As you probably guessed, this is going to be a Kingdom Hearts heavy episode. Kingdom Hearts 3 released last Tuesday, so it's been almost a week that we have been living in this new dawn of humanity. I've been playing it, and I'm excited to share my thoughts on the game so far. I have not finished it. In fact, I'm not even close to finishing it, but I want to give my impressions. I've got a special guest coming later on in the show for a fun Kingdom Hearts related segment, so stay tuned for that. But without further ado, Kingdom Hearts 3. So I picked it up, of course, launch day Tuesday. As I mentioned last week, when I was trapped in the police station fighting against zombies, which you should check out in last week's episode, the Resident Evil 2 radio drama. I talked briefly about playing the 2.8 collection thing. 2.8, let me see if I can remember this. Kingdom Hearts 2.8, final chapter prologue, a fragmentary passage, aka that Aqua thing. I finished that to get ready for this. I did a lot of prep work. I feel like more than any other series, I can't remember the last time I did any sort of like, it felt like homework for a game release. Enjoyable homework, but homework, where I had to finish that, watch that back cover movie, look up a like 40-minute lore summary of the entire series just to refresh my memory, courtesy of Eurogamer. And I don't remember the woman who narrated it, but she did a really good job. So, shout out to her. And then I watched Frozen for the first time, because I've never seen Frozen until now. I've always meant to see it. I wasn't actively avoiding it or anything. I just, for the last almost 6 years, I just somehow just never saw it. Every time it was on TV, it was always somewhere in the middle, and I don't want to watch it from the middle. I want to see it from the beginning. But that was the only movie world in Kingdom Hearts 3 that I was like, oh man, I haven't seen this, and I don't want my first exposure to it to be the super duper abridged version of the game. So I should watch that. So I did watch Frozen, and I enjoyed it. I'll say that. I thought it was better than I expected it to be. I've always heard that it was a, some people say it's overrated because it's the highest grossing animated film of all time, and that it's just a good classic Disney movie. But I enjoyed it more than I expected it to be. I thought it would just be like, oh, it's probably fine. I was like, no, this is cool. So watched Frozen and was ready to go. And I am currently, and if you're a fan and you've been playing this game to death, you're probably going to laugh at me when I say how far I am, but I am currently in Tangled, which is only the second Disney world that I've been to, because you start with the Hercules world that you're required to go to for plot reasons, and then after that, you get the gummy ship and you're free to go to either Tangled or Toy Story. I meant to go to Toy Story. In fact, I marked it on the map, and then I confused the green marker with the flag marker, and then ended up flying to Tangled. And then since I was already there, I was like, screw it, I'm here. I'll go. So I'm like in the middle of that right now. So not that far, just because I'm really busy. So I've been playing it in shorts, like just bits and bursts in between other stuff. But I'm enjoying it a lot so far. I am having... I mean, I knew I would have fun with it, but I don't know what to say. I'm having more fun with it than I expected. I think my biggest fear going into Kingdom Hearts 3 was that it would be the same game, but not polished up, or not. It would feel like a game that came from the PlayStation 2 instead of just a 2019 release that is a Kingdom Hearts game, if that makes sense. Like, it wouldn't feel modernized, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But so far, it doesn't feel like it's a game that's resting on its laurels. Like, they have introduced a lot of stuff, a lot of new stuff that so far have been welcomed additions. One of the biggies, of course, is the combat. Kingdom Hearts has always been a very good action combat game. I've never ranked it up with a Devil May Cry or a God of War, but it's always like, I'd put it at the tier right below that. Like, it is a good B+ third-person action game. And my big fear was that because so much time has passed, and, granted, they've had all those spin-off games, but even though, those are on handheld, they can only do so much in terms of polish just because of the limited power of those platforms. So I was worried the combat would just feel dated after 13 years of playing things like Bayonetta and the new God of Wars and Ninja Gaidens and just everything that's come out since then. And so far, I still wouldn't put it up there, but I think it's kind of I think it's probably maybe graduated from a B+ to maybe a pretty solid A-, or if there was an in between of an A- and a B+, like B++ or A-, I think I'd put it there, at least from what I've played so far. The combat is super smooth. Like, the frame rate is fantastic, and I don't know if that's an across-the-board thing. Like, I'm playing on a PlayStation 4 Pro. The combat has consistently been super-duper smooth, and I'm not someone that is a huge frame rate guy. Like there are a few instances where I can really like discern it. Like when you're comparing like 30 FPS to 60 FPS, like I'm not really one of those people. But here, like it just feels like, and it looks like buttery smooth when Sora's doing his like super duper flippy slash attacks in the air and things are exploding into colorful bits and pieces. Like this is, it goes without saying that this is easily the best looking this series has ever been. Another thing that's impressed me is that just the sheer wealth of things you can do in combat is fun, though it is a little bit overwhelming at first because they throw a lot at you, and none of it is hard to pull off. It's just that you have so much at your disposal that it just gets tricky of like, so like I was trying to figure out like what should I use for what situation. Like I was trying to figure out what was better than what, or if it even mattered, and it's just more about whatever you feel like doing. And I'm still don't think I've answered that question, but the things that you do are fun. So, you've got your basic attacks, you've got your basic magic attacks, you've got the team up attacks with Donald and Goofy, as well as other guest characters that show up. And then you've got the Disney rides, like the attractions, which are basically like Final Fantasy style summons, except instead of Bahamut, you're bringing in the teacups and you're spinning around in them and hitting people, and like other rides like that, like a roller coaster, and like I don't remember the actual names of a lot of these rides because, believe it or not, I've only been to Disney World once in my entire life, and I grew up in Florida and I still live in Florida and I don't live that far from Orlando. But yeah, I've only been to Disney World one time in my life, and it wasn't until I was an adult. I never went as a kid. Which is a story for another time. But so I don't remember a lot of the names outside. Like there's the raft ride is that Splash Mountain? Is that what that is? God, I sound probably really stupid right now. But you can summon like the raft thing. You can summon the train, which might be another ride. And those look really cool and really flashy. Though the pirate ship, I'm kind of over. It's not that much fun to use to me. Like it's okay, but I don't know, it moves really slow, and it's kind of hard to aim the water thing because you're the pirate, like the pirate ship ride, you're going up and down, and like you're supposed to hit X to shoot like water balls at people, and I don't know, that one's kind of a little iffy for me. But other than that, I've enjoyed them. But in case that's not enough, you also got the nightmare summons that were introduced in Dream Drop Distance, where Sora can bring in his monster buddies and do attacks with those. So they brought those back, and then they've also kept the flow motion attacks that were also in Dream Drop Distance, which are basically environmental attacks where like, hey, if you see a pole, you can spin on the pole and attack people. And then they've also got this reticle thing where if you hold R1, you can target a bunch of enemies at once and then unleash like a volley of like homing projectile attacks. And I think that's it. I'm sure the game will introduce more things, but I'm pretty sure that's all I can remember. Oh yeah, you've also got the form changes. I forgot to mention those, which, those pretty much unlock like new combo strings for you to use and change depending on the keyblade that you have. And you can also equip 3 different keyblades at the same time, and you can switch between them on the fly, kind of like Devil May Cry. So yeah, there's a lot you can do in combat. And like I said, when the first hour or so, it's a little bit overwhelming. And maybe they could have doled that stuff out maybe at a little bit of a slower pace, like let me get super used to one before you give me a new toy. But it helps that also none of them are really hard to use, and they're also a blast. Like the combat encounters, like Kingdom Hearts, are just kind of flashy, occasionally incomprehensible, just messes of colors and Disney and keys flying over the place, but damn it if it's not fun. And the attacks feel really satisfying. Like, I think I played a build of Kingdom Hearts 3 at E3 last year. Like, I played the Toy Story World, and I remember even back then, which was about not even 6 months ago, or maybe, I guess roughly 6 months ago, like, I remember the combat, like, feeling a little less impactful. Like, striking things didn't feel like I got, like, that feedback that I like from like a good Melee game. And I feel like that's here now, like, and I feel it in this one. So I don't know if that was something that they like, if it was a feedback thing, but I've noticed of like, oh no, hitting something actually feels really, really nice than it did last summer. Another cool thing that they've added, and it was an unexpected thing, was they added a photo mode. And I'm not a big photo mode guy in video games, and I think that's an extension of me not being a photo guy in real life. Like, I really am not a picture taking guy, which if you follow me on social media, you probably have noticed, like, if I have a profile picture, that is my profile picture for the next several years until I feel like taking another one. And all the pictures that I do take are either of other things that aren't me, and that's only if I go somewhere. I don't really take any pictures unless I'm on a trip. Or if I have pictures of myself, they're almost always taken by another person. I don't really do selfies or anything like that. Like, I don't know why. Ever since I was a kid, I'm really not just into taking pictures of things. And I don't really mess with photo modes in games that much unless it's gamified in a way. Like, if it's just there just to do and it has no bearing on the actual game, then I'm probably not going to engage with it. But much like Spider-Man last year, which had the landmark challenges where you would find both real life and comic book landmarks in New York City and take pictures of them, and it was like basically another collectible. Like, you got, like, there was a thread to it. I did that because it was fun, and it fit the character, and it felt like I was progressing in the game at some point. And Kingdom Hearts 3 has that, where Sora has a phone, which, as a side note, I just realized, because there's a great scene where Sora gets the phone, he has no idea how to use it, and then I realized that phones don't exist in this world, and everyone seems blown away that this technology is possible, which in a game that features like spaceships and like space travel and world travel and magic, a phone being this super impressive thing is kind of hilarious. But anyways, so yeah, you get this phone, and they have these cool challenges where you can take pictures of hidden Mickeys. And I might not have gone to Disney World all that much, but I do know about the hidden Mickey thing, where if you, like, all the Disney parks have Mickey Mouse icons, or just Mickey Mouse, just like what it said, like Mickey Mouse symbols everywhere in the park and in different forms. And like, one of the things you do when you go to Disney, if you want to do it, is go look for them. And so they've put those in Kingdom Hearts 3 where they're all over a bunch of the worlds. And if you take a picture of them with your phone, you get a bonus for it. And the more you take, you might get like items, like you might get potions or just like recipes or something like that. So I've actually had fun like going around trying to find stuff. And on top of that, there's photo missions with the Moogle, who's asked you to take pictures of specific things like enemy types or objects, and then he'll give you things if you bring him the right pictures. So I've had a nice excuse to actually use that mode. And I've also had a good time just taking pictures because I think it has to do with the Disney aspects. I'm a big Disney fan. I love Disney movies. And you know, the draw of Kingdom Hearts has always been, for me since the beginning, was being able to visit these worlds that I mostly grew up with, and just like getting the closest I could get to living in them. So I've had fun just going around taking pictures. Like like I said, I'm entangled right now, and like, oh, I'm gonna take a picture of Rapunzel Tower. That's like a landmark. Like, I'm treating it as I would in real life. Like I said, I only take pictures when I go on trips of like landmarks and stuff like that. So that's kind of my mentality of like, well, I gotta take a picture of Rapunzel's tower. That's pretty cool. And like, hey, I gotta take a selfie with Rapunzel. And I like that the characters react when you put the camera in front of them in some pretty funny ways. Like Rapunzel, of course, if you've seen Tangled, since she's never left the outside world until the adventure starts, she has no idea what anything is, especially a camera, which don't exist in her world anyway. So she's like double surprised, and she's like, oh, like, what do I do here? And should I smile? And she'll like pose for you. I think that's a really cute touch. And Donald and Goofy will do the same. So that's been a pleasant surprise. I like that addition. Another cool thing that they've added is the bistro element. So there's ingredients that you can find, and then you can take them to a restaurant and cook them. And I don't want to spoil who's cooking the food, but if you are a Pixar fan, you can probably guess which character would be best suited for cooking food. Anyways, there's a bunch of recipes that you can get, and then each recipe has its own kind of dedicated mini game to it, which is really neat because I feel like they could have just done the same mini game for everything, but like chopping onions is its own control input, and then sometimes you have to flambe, and that's its own control scheme and challenge. And they're pretty much just short little challenges, but they require basically timing, and I've had a lot of fun doing those. And plus the recipes, or the dishes rather, that you make, you keep, and then they give you bonuses temporarily if you eat them. So there's incentive for like gameplay, but also if you fill out all those recipes and you make like, if you get like high scores in them, because you can get like a perfect score and then the recipe will be marked as such on the menu, then you increase the restaurant's reputation. So like I have 1 star right now on the bistro. Ooh, by the way, the bistro is owned by a certain wealthy character, a certain wealthy waterfowl, you could say, a personal favorite character of mine. Which is a nice touch. But it's a nice little diversion of like now every time I explore, I want to find ingredients so I can bring them back to the restaurant and unlock new things, and then increase the restaurant, and then get or increase the restaurant's reputation and get new stuff. So side content like that, I'm having a lot of fun. It's cool to have that stuff on the side on top of the standard Kingdom Hearts loop of just going through worlds and beating the crap out of things with a big key. And I'm excited to see if they continue to add more of that kind of stuff as the game goes on. There's one particular thing that I want to touch on that I'm very curious to get all you guys' thoughts on, if you felt the same, is that there feels like there's an interesting contrast, or maybe even a disconnect, between playing through and again, I've only played through 2 worlds, but they both serve this example of like playing through a world based on the classic Disney films, and then playing through a world based on the modern films. So, like I said in the beginning, you start the game, and the first Disney world you go to by default is Hercules, and then after that you can go anywhere you want, and then I went to Tangled. So obviously Hercules, classic Renaissance era Disney, Tangled, part of the new Renaissance that we're currently in. And going from those back to back has been an interesting feeling, because going through Hercules and playing pretty much the old Kingdom Hearts games, the thrill of doing that was nostalgia. It was like, oh my god, I love Hercules, I grew up with this movie, and like Mulan, Aladdin, what have you, and now I get to go back to it, and just like, you just feel that flooding of like, oh, it's like I'm playing alongside my childhood, that's so cool. But then also, because those films were traditionally animated, seeing them rendered in 3D has always made them feel like, it was always a hard reminder of, this is a video game, and you are playing the video game version of this film. Which was fine, like that's, what the game essentially is. But it was a very in-your-face reminder of that. Like, it was like, I would have to kind of tell myself, like, I'm playing through the movie, even if the presentation completely contradicted that, because like, well, that's not how the movie looks at all. But it's, it's a close approximation. It's like, it's a good translation of that art style. Whereas now, visiting Tangled and watching it, for the first time, I actually feel like I'm in that world, because all of the modern films, with the exception of Princess and the Frog and the 2011 Winnie the Pooh film, are all made, or are all CG. They're all computer-generated films. So there is no translation needed. Like, Tangled looks like Tangled. Like, it looks like that movie. And there are times, especially when it's focusing on the movie characters and Sora and the gang are not in the scene, you're kind of like, oh yeah, this is just that, I'm just watching Tangled again. And then Sora's head will pop up. You're like, oh yeah, I'm part of this now. And this is the first time I've ever felt fully immersed in a film because there isn't that, I don't have to play that mental trickery of like, oh, this is just like Aladdin. That's not what Aladdin looks like. But it's like, I'm like, no, this is Tangled. Like, holy crap, like everything looks exactly the same. Especially when they start recreating the scenes in that movie. Like there's the scene in Tangled where she escapes the tower and she's sliding down her hair and she's super gung-ho about seeing the world for the first time, and then right before she hits the ground she stops like inches from the ground and she looks terrified for a moment because she realizes like, oh crap, this is happening, and then touches down and then proceeds to go wild. And then there's the funny scene, like the montage of her going back and forth about whether or not this is a good idea, which they do in the game, which I very much appreciated. And like those moments reinforce that feeling of like you're playing through this film again. And I think that's the coolest thing about playing these modern Disney films, because I don't have nostalgia for them in the same sense as the classic films, because those movies came out when I was very much an adult. Of course, I love those new movies. Like I think a lot of the new stuff has been fantastic. It's just it's a different kind of appreciation that I have for them than I do for the past stuff. So I like that I think it's cool to have that mix, and maybe this is something that only people my age will be able to have, is having that great mix of like, oh, this world is fun for purely nostalgia, childhood purposes, and then, oh crap, it's Big Hero 6. I think that movie was pretty cool, and I feel like more than the classic stuff, like I'm actually part of this story. Like I am in this. I think that's an interesting, I don't think it's a bad contrast. I just think it's an interesting mix that I'm wondering if anyone else feels the same, and I would love to hear if that's the case. But I think it adds to the game. I think it gives Kingdom Hearts 3 more, a bit more range of emotions than the previous Kingdom Hearts games, because it has a much wider breadth of the different eras of Disney. Because now we also have Pixar, which is its own thing, because, and you know what, Pixar is interesting because Pixar is kind of a mix of those two different perspectives, because Toy Story is very much an old movie. I saw Toy Story as a kid and when I was in theaters. And so like it's got that nostalgia going for it, but it's a computer animated film. So I don't have to pretend that I'm playing through the movie, because Toy Story looks like Toy Story. It's not a 2D film that they had to adapt to 3D. Everything looks as it was. So now that I'm thinking about it, Toy Story is like or pretty much any of the older Pixar films, like Monsters Inc. is in this game. So when I get there, it's the same thing of it's a blend of those two contrasts now. Ooh, you guys can't see me right now, but I'm literally like twiddling my fingers thinking about this in my head of like, what fascinating concepts, like just the different feelings that having these different blends of Disney generations is kind of creating in me. Whereas the old Kingdom Hearts was very much the one note nostalgia thing. Now it's a bunch of different things. I'm kind of I think about, like, if you've noticed, this show can be very stream of consciousness with me, where I'm just kind of thinking off the top of my head. It's like I like having this epiphany, like literally on the spot of like, okay, and now I'm just like pondering, like, that's interesting. So you have to excuse my enthusiastic rambling at times. But regardless, the worlds, or at least the 3 or so that I've been to right now, have been really fun. I like how more open, at least they seem to be. They're beautiful looking. They're vibrant. They're sharp and smooth. Like this game, just on a presentation level, the game it really is there's some nice eye candy throughout this game. One element that I'm a little bit disappointed in are the voice performances. And it's not so much that I wouldn't say that they're bad. It's just that they feel like more of the same. Like, it feels like Kingdom Hearts, and that Kingdom Hearts has never been a standout game when it comes to convincing voice acting. A lot of it has always been very stilted, and some performances feel forced and cheesy, like just the way characters react to things. It's always fallen flat. Especially more so the original, like the actual Kingdom Hearts characters, like Sora, and you know anyone that is not either a Disney or Final Fantasy character. And that's pretty much the same here. And there's a part of me that's kind of like, I guess, nostalgic for it, of like, oh, yep, that's Kingdom Hearts. Never change, I guess. Like, this feels like that. But I think I wish that this would, like, the performances were a bit better. Like, I would have loved to see, because it kind of gets a little bit hard to get into the more emotional moments, and it when the performances feel just kind of wooden, and just like the pacing, that way that lines are delivered, like there's just something about Kingdom Hearts. Like, it feels it's always felt like the stereotypical example of like JRPG dialogue. Like Sora be like, "I'll always be here in your heart, guys." And then like 2 second, like a weird amount of time will pass, like kind of too long time. And then, like, I don't know, Goofy, my gosh, thanks, Sora. And it's like, I don't know, like, there's the way, like I said, like, the way dialogue has always been presented has never been great. And that's a legacy issue that unfortunately still plagues Kingdom Hearts 3, at least where I'm at. I don't know if it gets better. I don't expect it to. I've made my peace with that's just how Kingdom Hearts is a long time ago. But it would have been nice to get some better acting. Another kind of disappointing element, at least for maybe some other people, is the way that so far the game kind of catches people up on the story thus far, or whatever they call it. So, like I said, I've played just about every Kingdom Hearts spin-off game, with the exception of maybe like a couple. But I played all the major ones, like Birth by Sleep, 358 over 2, Chain of Memories, all the, 2.8, whatever. And I still watched a lore guide going into this, which I'm very grateful. Like, I understand more about Kingdom Hearts now than I ever have. And I credit that to the lore guide that I watched. Which has made this more enjoyable, because this series has always been extremely confusing and it's convoluted. There's just so much happening. And when I first fired up Kingdom Hearts 3, I saw the little memory archive thing in the menu, and I thought, oh, cool. They actually have like an in-game like recap of everything that's happened. So if for some reason, like if you're a person that's picking this up day one, like let's say you played Kingdom Hearts 2 back in the day and didn't play anything since then, because either you didn't have 19 different handhelds, or you just thought that maybe those games didn't matter because they didn't have a number in front of it, except for 358 over 2, which has several, but it didn't have the number 3 in front of it, then you maybe brushed them off as inconsequential, which is not the case at all. This in-game resource would be a great way to get you caught up to speed, because it's them doing it. Like, this is Square Enix themselves. Like, this is them putting their own version of a lore guide into it. So you don't have to watch those videos if you want to. You're getting it directly from the source. And I watched those just to see, even though I didn't need them. And I was actually pretty disappointed, because they don't really help that much, at least to me, as someone that already knows this stuff. Like, I was watching it and I'm like, it's not that detailed. It's kind of more like they read like back of the box quotes more than anything, of like giving you the vaguest of ideas of what has been happening, and they don't even hit every era of the story. And I was curious about how someone coming into this series super duper fresh, like has maybe never played Kingdom Hearts, but maybe has heard of it and was like, hey, there's this new game coming out. Maybe I don't need to know everything. I'll just pick it up and play it. I like Donald Duck. Who knows? And like maybe heard like, oh, okay, I can use this to catch up on the games. I wondered if they would get it. Like if they had only that memory archive to go on, if that would be enough to give them even the slightest idea of what is happening in this game and what they need to know for Kingdom Hearts 3. So with that said, I did find such a person, a good friend of mine, who in the next segment, I'm going to sit down with her because she has picked up Kingdom Hearts 3 and has not played any other Kingdom Hearts anything, and I'm going to quiz her using only the memory archive from Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm going to read the transcript of it to her, and I'm going to test to see if she grasps anything about this series, to see whether or not that archive alone is sufficient enough for a newcomer to even have the mildest idea of what is happening in this series. So, stay tuned for the next segment, which I like to call the Memory Archive Exam. Here we are. Kingdom Hearts. It's out. We are talking about... Woo, there we go. My guest is already excited. And my guest is here. My guinea pig for the day. My sacrificial lamb to a degree for the Kingdom Hearts faithful. But she has graciously agreed to come on and put herself out there like this. And
yes.
we have... Yes, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Obviously, never played a Kingdom Hearts game, but I hear the lore is interesting and I want to know more.
Yes, Miss Angelina, aka Hologram Dream, on Twitter and the internet in general. First of all, you might remember her if you listen to the Carving Gaming Rushmore's podcast for the best voice performances in video games. She guest appeared on that. But for people that might not know who you are, feel free to give us a quick recap about who you are and
you
what
may
you do.
know me from the Ham Hill incident, but actually, that's not my main thing, is being cringe on pods. No. I also do a multitude of other things. Namely, I work for a company called Exato Games. I think they're a great video game company to work for, and we're doing a game called Elo Hell. I do the convention circuit quite often, so you've probably already heard me talk about Elo Hell at some point. But it is a narrative game. It's a Telltale style game about what it's like to go pro in today's esports industry, which has nothing to do with Kingdom Hearts. So we'll just set all that aside and we'll dive right into the real reason we're here. Okay.
I mean, I'm sure sooner or later Kingdom Hearts will get into esports at some point.
Oh yeah, probably.
Yeah, if anything, keeping up with the story is an esport in itself, because it's some people can do it better than others. We're gonna see how you rank, because we were talking, and the reason we're doing it is that you told me you were playing / watching Kingdom Hearts 3, and that you had no previous experience with any of the other games, and that fascinated me, because one of the big questions going into this game was, can you pick this up without playing either any of them, or if you've only played the numbered entries and skipped all of the spin-offs? And I feel like I had that question answered for me personally when I started Kingdom Hearts 3, because I went to that memory archive, which is in the main menu, and what it is that it's a collection of short kind of vignettes recapping the story thus far, quote unquote. And
which is really nice of them to do. Like, that's very thoughtful. Like, oh, hey guys, you may want to have caught up a little bit.
Yeah, to a degree. I watched those. So I before Kingdom Hearts 3, I did watch like independent lore summaries on YouTube. Like I watched Eurogamer's one that I thought was really good, and I've heard like other just random influencers have made some really in-depth but also simplified guides about the story so far. And I thought it was cool, like, oh, Square has their own, like, this is their official recap, so it must be good. And watching it, having watched everyone else's, I was like, this actually doesn't seem very helpful if I don't know anything about this series. Like, it's very vague, it kind of jumps around, it's not even in chronological order in terms of how they present the story. And I was curious about how this would go with someone like you that's more or less kind of blind to this series, and if it was a decent primer before jumping into Kingdom Hearts 3. So,
Yeah, let's see what kind of story I pieced together from this.
Yes. And what I have done is that I have literally transcribed all 5 of those episodes. Like, I typed them all out. I did exclude the kind of in-between chatter with the characters, like the actual scene dialogue with the characters, and I only typed the narration. So, because it was like some, like, girl narrating it, and then they would play a random out-of-context scene from whatever game they were referencing, so I didn't type that stuff because it would be weird. So this is the straightforward, just information from the narrator being presented to the player to say, hey, here's what you need to know, and I'm going to read it, and what I want you to do is, if there's any point that you don't understand anything that I am saying or want clarification, I want you to buzz in, literally just interrupt me, and then I will attempt to explain it. And for me, this is a bit of a redemption, because in the second episode of this show, when I was doing part 2 of the 2019 game preview spectacular with Jack Gardner, when we talked about Kingdom Hearts, he kind of threw me a pop quiz about what Kingdom Hearts was, and I failed miserably, because this is prior to me getting caught up on all the lore, so I feel like I need this too, as much as you need this to get familiar, I need this to look better as a person, basically.
Yes. So
this is a mutual relationship. It's a symbiosis to a degree. Though you will be the one that's kind of raked over the coals, so to speak. With that said, so we're going to kick it off with Book 1, Departures. Are you ready? Are you ready to strap in on this adventure?
Yes. Is that what they call it in the vignette edits?
In the game, yeah.
Yeah.
Book 1, Departures.
Okay.
Okay. It begins with Sora and his friends Kairi and Riku. The 3 are inseparable, and they believe another world is waiting out beyond the sea. But then darkness consumes the islands they call home and tears them apart. Sora wakes up in an unknown world, and before long he meets 2 courageous companions, a magician named Donald and a knight named Goofy. They embark on an adventure and make countless friends and a few enemies. Just as Sora is starting to grasp the power of the Keyblade, he comes face to face with his friend Riku. But that's just the beginning of the tale. Little do Sora and his friends realize what fate has in store for them. And that's it. That's basically a recap of Kingdom Hearts 1.
Yeah. That sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. It's actually leaving out a lot of stuff. But it's more like, it's very much like it reads like a back of the box quote than like an actual, like, here's what happened. You know, like, it doesn't touch on the enemies or what's even happening. It kind of, it is the vaguest of I don't know if I would say descriptions, but I mean, this is just me. I mean, what did you glean from that? I mean, you're familiar with Sora. You know?
I mean, if they find Donald and Goofy and then they join forces and, you know, just do little quests together, like, that just seems like something that would happen.
Do you know what they're fighting?
The pirates? I don't know.
No? Do you know who the bad guy is?
Nope.
Do you know what happened to Riku?
Well, does it say he meets...
He meets him face to face.
Yeah.
That's about all we hear about Riku, at least in this book.
Huh. Yeah, well, I can't... I can kind of, like, interpret some things that... I may know just because I've heard things on the internet, but I just, for the sake of this, like, that offers me nothing.
Okay, yeah. I was like, do you have any role of, like, what Riku plays, as well as Kairi, the role that she plays, and even just the general, like, plot of Kingdom Hearts 1, like, what are they after? What are they trying to stop? What's the villain?
Obviously they don't say anything about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We'll move on to book 2. Okay, so this is technically going into the next game, which chronologically is Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, which was the Game Boy Advance game that came out in between 1 and 2, but was kind of still supposed to bridge the gap. Are the memories we share with the people we love our only true connection to them? Sora, Donald, and Goofy have been searching for King Mickey and Riku, their friends who were stranded on the other side of the door to darkness. A clue leads them to a mysterious citadel called Castle Oblivion. Sora is determined to press on and look for his friends. But as he climbs, his most precious memories begin to slip away. He is being tricked by Marluxia and a mysterious organization who are trying to make him their puppet. Unaware that the events of his past have been rewritten inside of his mind, Sora races to the top of the castle to save a girl named Naminé. But there he learns the shocking truth. Naminé has special powers, and she's the one who's been changing Sora's memory. This would be Sora's first encounter with Organization 13, but certainly not his last. The end.
Jesus, what is wrong with them? Like, what a summary. Like, okay.
Alright, so what happened?
Cool, so I guess after hearing all of that, you can understand, I mean, the general plot for Mickey to, or sorry, you know, like, you understand that Mickey and Riku are in trouble, kind of, like, they're obviously not in a great situation. And then, what's the main character's name again?
Oh, Sora?
Yeah, so Sora has to get his memories back.
Okay.
And overcome, people tricking him.
Sure. That's, yeah. Do you do you know who Naminé is?
Naminé? No.
Okay. She was I think they mentioned her, she's the girl with special powers who Sora's trying to rescue, but also was the one changing Sora's memory, and that's about it for her. There's of course more to it than that. Some very important stuff's kind of left out, but that's about what they give her here. And also they mention Marluxia and the organization, Organization 13. Okay.
Yep.
Fair enough. Book 3. Here we are. So this one covers Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days, which was the DS game that technically the story runs parallel. It takes place after Kingdom Hearts 1, runs parallel to Chain of Memories, and then ends, I believe, the day before Kingdom Hearts 2 begins. Is that clear?
Huh.
Yeah. So here we go.
They were like, we had things we needed to say before. Let's just go back.
Yeah, though, like, chronological, like, in terms of release, this released after Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, here we go. You ready?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's see. Think now for a moment about your best friend, someone you couldn't bear to lose. His mind a blank slate, Roxas starts counting the days, determined to never forget anything again. He and his friend Axel go on missions for the organization. They are soon joined by the group's 14th member, a girl named Xion. Like Roxas, she has no memory of her past. The three have been told they don't have hearts, that they're nobodies. And yet it's strange. They seem to realize how much they care about each other. If only all of this could last forever. Xion's darkest secret is that she only exists to seize control of Sora's power, the Keyblade's power. If they really have no hearts, then why does the truth hurt this much? The grief, the anger, a loss, the emptiness. But I believe there's hope for them, don't you? One day they'll be together again. Okay, so what happened in 358 days over 2?
Yeah, I thought that was cute. Like, it's kind of like Star Wars, A New Hope vibes.
Really?
And,
How so?
well, it's like they're all coming from, it's like a ragtag bunch. They're not like pedigreed people, but they have like this force inside of them. It's like friendship and love, and it unites them. So that's like the good. But then Xion has to steal the Keyblades. She's like battling light versus good, and she's compelled to stay in her like friend group more than she is to pursue power.
Okay.
So it's like a cutesy version of the Star Wars lore, kind of.
It's we'll come back to that thought later. Actually, no, I will leave it at there because we will definitely revisit that thought a little bit later. Okay then, book 4. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Making tough choices isn't easy, but if that's what it takes to save a friend... ... Riku discovers Sora in Castle Oblivion, suspended in deep sleep. He is faced with a decision. Riku embraces his inner darkness and resolves to carry it towards the light. In time, Riku crosses paths with Shion, who attacks him with a false Keyblade. He learns that Organization 13 is using her and Roxas to drain Sora of his memories and power. To save his best friend, Riku prepares for the inevitable, and Shion chooses to do the same. Riku and Roxas clash, both desperate to save a friend. Riku's overpowered and decides not to hold his darkness back any longer. Each fork in the road shapes who we are, but Riku won't look back, not while his friends need him. And that's the end. And just to be clear, this also takes place in 358 over 2 days. So this is technically the same game. It's just focusing more on the Riku aspect of it. So, yep. What you got?
It's just had the same kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm. Do you understand?
You know, they're gonna obviously like Shion and Sora are gonna confront each other, and then he's gonna be like, "Oh, you were actually my friend once, but they messed with our memories," or whatever. You know, right?
No, but it's they're in a very, very like vague sense, yes, but not in the literal sense that you're saying no.
Okay, well, that's just something like I would shout out if I was watching the movie. I'd be like, "This is what's gonna happen." Like, I'm one of those people that just likes to guess, but
no, it's fine.
You know, a lot of things could obviously happen.
That's fine. That's what you're here for. I just want you to spitball whatever you think is happening. Just literally whatever is in your head, just throw it out there. Okay.
I guess I'm expecting it to be corny, but it's also like pretty serious.
Yeah. Oh, it's super corny. It's also very corny. And a lot of, I mean, if you play the games, it's more about the performances. The voice performances have always been very corny. And I'm saying this as a fan. But yeah, it's, you know, Kingdom Hearts is all about friendship and blah, blah, blah. It's about three things I've gathered outside of the Disney stuff. It's about friendship, memories, and sleeping. There's a lot of sleeping and there's a lot of amnesic characters, and friendship is everywhere.
It's good for everyone in our generation to remember that it's very important to rest, and your mental health depends a lot on your ability to like rest thoroughly.
Yes, that's why Sora was asleep, because he had to get rest and healthy and be technically you're not wrong. He did need to sleep to get mentally better. Interesting. Okay.
That's science right there.
Which is what Kingdom Hearts has always been about at the end of the day. Just nice hard science. Alrighty, so we are on the last book, and then we're gonna see what we get from this series overall from after all of this. So here we go. And this is the biggest one. Who are we fighting? How did this all begin? And why did it take us so long to notice? Twice now, Master Xehanort has sought to drag the world into a great Keyblade war between the forces of light and darkness. But both times his ambitions have been thwarted. In his first attempt, he divided a boy's heart into two beings, a pure light named Ventus and a pure darkness named Vanitas. The two were... yeah. The two were to clash and form a relic known as the Keyblade, which, for your reference, it's actually spelled X-Blade, like it's X-blade, but the X is actually like, I think, a Greek X, so it's not like XX, but it's pronounced Keyblade. It's confusing, don't worry about it, I'm just letting you know.
Okay.
3 students of Master Iroquois, Xehanort's former brother in training, rose up to stop the Keyblade from being forged. They fought bravely, and their strong bond allowed them to triumph over Xehanort. But all 3 paid a terrible price, and their destinies were sealed. The destruction of the Keyblade plunged Ventus into a deep sleep. Aqua sacrificed herself to the realm of darkness to save Terra. And, by the time he was found, Terra was going by a different name. Xehanort's second attempt to start a Keyblade war involved pitting 7 pure lights against 13 darknesses. His heart and body acted separately. His heart, Ansem, manipulated Riku and Maleficent into capturing the 7 pure lights he needed, the Princesses of Heart. His body, Xemnas, founded Organization at 13, who would serve as 13 darknesses. But his plans were dashed by Sora and his friends, who defeated Ansem and Xemnas. Now, Master Xehanort has warned of a third attempt to start his Keyblade War. 13 darknesses, 7 lights. The end is coming. Alright. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there seems to be a lot of couples that are having little side stories.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just mean like pairs.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just I guess they're trying to make, incorporate more characters into the storyline and make it more interesting because it just seems like there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Do you know who Master Xehanort is?
No.
Do you know? That's why. Do you know who Ventus, Terra, and Aqua are?
Yeah, they seem to just kind of pop in.
Okay. Do you know when this story takes place that they were referencing? Do you have any idea of when this takes place exactly?
I guess it has a future kind of vibe to it because none of the characters had been referenced before. So you assume that they're people that they meet along the way in the future, but that's just that's the only vague. It just seems like it happened after
I would
the
actually
other stories happened.
Yeah, it's actually the opposite. This takes place 10 years before the first game, so it's a prequel.
Right, yeah, but just the way it's like presented, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I got you. I'm just trying to see, again, I'm just...
like, if they were so important in the past, why weren't they ever referenced?
Well, exactly. Well, I mean, now they've retroactively been referenced, but...
Yeah, Star Wars does the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's very... going by your Star Wars comparison, that is a very, very apt comparison to the Kingdom Hearts series, especially starting with this game. So this game that Book 5, at least the first half of it is referencing, is Birth by Sleep, which originally came out on PSP, like in 2010. And that game is a 10-year prequel to the first Kingdom Hearts that kind of establishes, kind of sets the table for, everything that had happened in the series of, how did things get to this, basically. So, and it's the most Star Wars thing in Kingdom Hearts. To me, this is when Kingdom Hearts officially became kind of Star Wars-y. And it's funny because at the time I was like, is this just like Disney Star Wars? And then this is obviously years before Disney bought Star Wars.
Wow. Yeah.
So now I don't even know what you would call it. And then it's funny because the second half of this, they kind of explain Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 better here than they did in the actual books that were kind of covering the games. Talking about the plan and all that stuff and who the villains are and what the main goal had. They actually do spell out the main goal of the villain. So Master Xehanort is the main villain of this series, basically. He's the big bad. You don't know that until Birth by Sleep, really, where he's introduced proper, because the villains in the previous games, which were Ansem in the first game, and then Xemnas in the second game, were actually, parts of him. They were alternate versions of him, basically. I'm trying to think of a really easy way to say this, but basically, he split himself into 2 different people, and that was him, but the characters and the people didn't know that at the time, but now we know. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing, and it doesn't, the body splitting does not stop there. But we'll leave it at that for now. But yeah, I mean, do you have any questions about anything? Or is there anything that you've seen in your time playing Kingdom Hearts 3 that you were kind of like, what the hell is this? Or what is happening? Or anything that...
Basically,
anything.
the whole
Ask
thing.
me anything.
I think I've seen probably 3 hours of the new one, at least. And I was working on a painting project of mine and kind of lazily, watching my roommate play. And I swear, I just didn't care about it. I was like, I just don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, like it's hard to
They're
get
very
invested when
cheesy.
yeah, it's hard to get invested when you don't you don't know what to be invested in. You know what I mean? Because it's very much it's the finale of this like 15-year thing. So you're like,
Yeah. And that
yeah,
voice acting style, like, man, oh man, I think it just makes me feel like I'm being condescended to. So I just kind of check out. Or I used
it,
to also like work with kids a lot. So I just hate like kids movies. I don't know.
it's funny because the story is incredibly intricate and involved. And you know, when you're looking at it from like either a lore guide or something, like when you read it, you're like, wow, there's a lot going on here. Like the game kind of like on the surface, kind of the simplicity of the game and the voice acting kind of is deceiving in a sense because you think like, oh, this is probably a really straightforward kind of like save the world thing, and you're like, no. I mean, yes, that's the main goal, I guess. Overall, it's like, hey, we got to stop the bad guy, but it is a complicated. We have to stop the bad guy.
Oh yeah, big time. I mean, it was difficult for me to follow the last bit, especially.
Yeah, and I think my overall point with this was that it really just I don't even know. It feels like more of a reminder for people that have played all these games than for easing in newcomers. Like if someone that's like for me that remembers, like maybe I played all of them, but you know I haven't kept up to refresh myself, so I remember like the broad strokes. So I just need like something to be like, hey, remember when this happened? You're like, oh yeah, and then maybe the rest will come to me. Like it seems very dependent on like the details will come to you after we kind of give you the big stuff, and then you'll remember it. But like for someone like you that has no base whatsoever, and this is like the only thing that you have, and it's confusing. Like even reading this or watching them, I was like, wow, they're really kind of skipping a lot of major stuff, like pivotal things that you would need to know to play this game, or if you want to play the game and give a crap about what's actually happening. Yeah, Keyblade Wars, 13 Darknesses, people sleeping, a villain that splits himself more times than Voldemort. Yeah. Kingdom Hearts, Disney. Mickey Mouse is in it too. He's there. So is Donald and Goofy. Ta-da!
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it'll be really good for kids to play this game and really have to use their imagination and their critical thinking to piece together such an intricate plot and storyline and lore. And if kids get really into it, then that's like really great. Just like the Harry Potter effect.
Yeah, and if nothing else, they can use their dexterous fingers to practice typing again, what the hell is this series about on YouTube, and find one of the many better lore guides, and they can, you know, give their parents about 45 minutes of peace as they watch that and figure out what the hell is happening.
We live in a beautiful time to be alive.
We do. We really do.
I'm very thankful for all of the people that make explanation guides on YouTube because they saved me so much. Even during college, I would just be like, dude, I need like this explained to me so fast. And YouTube would always be my go-to. I loved it.
YouTube, the hero we need but we don't deserve. What I've always called it. All right, Angelina. Well, thank you for sitting down with me and letting me bamboozle you.
I was bamboozled, but I pulled through in the end. I was like, get it together, focus. What's happening?
You got this. I got to trust in my heart and summon the Keyblade. I effectively gave you the Mark of Mastery exam, which also was not explained, but we won't get into that. But yeah, thanks for doing that. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was really fun. Thanks for having me on. I hope to talk to you again soon on the pod.
You should. And where do if people want to reach out to you, where can they find you on the internets?
I run the Exato Games Twitter, and I also run my own personal Twitter at Hologram Dream.
Sounds good. There you go, folks. Alrighty. Let's summon a portal to Kingdom Hearts. And there it is. That's the sound it makes. Get out of here. Alright, I want to thank Angelina again for coming on and being a tremendous sport. And before we wrap things up here, I just want to touch on some non-Kingdom Hearts games I've been playing the last week. Namely, the Anthem demo. So I played the open beta for the peons that did not pre-order the game, which wound up being a good choice because the people that did drop money were barely able to play it during their allotted time due to some service, or rather some server issues that kind of plagued that pre-launch or early launch for pre-order players. But I was able to play for a bit. I didn't play a ton just due to scheduling and time, but I did get in one night and play through a full mission. If you played the Anthem demo, you've probably done it. I played the that first one, the Triple Threat, which was the story mission. Played that all the way through. So just based on that, my initial impressions, Anthem seems okay so far. Nothing in the demo blew me away. At the same time, nothing that I experienced personally seemed egregiously bad. It was a competent third-person shooting game, which in itself is a bit disappointing. I will say some things that I was not super duper high on was the flying. Like, the flying itself feels pretty good, but the overheating thing, I don't know. For me, it felt a bit limiting. Like, it felt like I overheated more frequently than I feel like I should in a game that is about jetting around like Iron Man. Like, that, at least to me, always seemed like one of Anthem's key selling points. So when I play that game, that's all I want to do is just fly around. So to have kind of this anchor that is that overheat meter, because it you know, as you fly, it fills up, and then if it overheats, you have to land and kind of recharge it. I don't really know I don't think I like that. I just feel like if that's what this game is, if that's what you're selling this game on, to just let me do it, or maybe at the very least just make that meter a bit more forgivable. I just felt like I was landing more times than I would like, and instead of just admiring the sights as I was flying, I was honestly just eyeing that meter the entire time to make sure that I didn't like fall in a less desirable location, and that to me isn't very fun. So I don't know how much time they would have left to implement this, because the game launches, I think, at the earliest, because it has like 19 release dates. I think the earliest that game is playable is the 15th, I want to say. So that's an issue I have. The combat itself was fine. Like I said, it was completely functional. It's definitely not the best third-person shooting I've ever played. It doesn't really stand out. It's totally passable. The enemies felt a little bit bullet spongy to me and didn't feel all that satisfying to slaughter, which I hope is another thing that's tweaked. Like just the act of like getting off headshots and stuff like that. It just didn't feel as it just didn't have that punch that a lot of modern shooters have, which is a big deal given that I would imagine that's going to be 90% of what you're doing in that game is putting bullets into other things. The cooperative aspect seems like it could be cool. I didn't play with any friends. The one friend I did try to play with flat out said that he didn't like the game when he played it by himself, so he was not interested. So that was before I really got to dig in. I was like, oh, that's not exactly a ringing endorsement. Like the fact that he didn't even want to come back to play with me. So I played just with random strangers, which seemed to work well in terms of just matchmaking. Like I got into a squad relatively quickly compared to what I was hearing with other people having trouble just getting into the game at certain points. But during that mission, I had a hilarious moment where if you played the Triple Threat mission, you'll probably remember there was that puzzle segment where you're trying to line up or like do the matching colors, or I don't even know what it was, to be honest with you, but there's like an object that's surrounded by a shield, and the only way to unlock it is to, I guess, like set these three different there's like three different kind of like almost like windows in three different areas of this kind of circular room, and they change, and if you hit the window, and it's not a window, but that's what I'm calling it, it changes colors like red, blue, and like yellow and purple. and I guess they have to be set to a certain combination to open the thing. And the only way to do this is that, I mean, at least the right way you would do this is that, each person takes a node and just like hits it, and then, but you would be communicating what you should be doing or just bouncing around ideas using the chat. Unfortunately for me, nobody was on chat, and so it was a bunch of us flying around, kind of doing our own thing. Like, I think we all, at least I like to think we were all on the same page in terms of, like, I think we know what this kind of, like, we get the idea of what this puzzle is, but, like, I was trying to test my own theories of, like, maybe it has to be all one matching color and trying to hit them, and then I would hit two, like, okay, I got two set to blue, I'm gonna get the third one, and then somebody would go to the first one and change it to red, and I'm like, god damn it, and I can't say anything. So that part was frustrating because we were there for quite a long time, and then I'm at least on my end, by sheer luck, we solved it. I don't even know what the solution was. So that was a thing. I don't know if that really if that speaks to the game itself in terms of design. I'm not sure it's bad design. I mean, that would have been far better if you had voice communication, but but at the same time, you would probably want to have puzzles that you can do without voice communication, because the kind of count on every player having or even wanting to talk to other people and designing puzzles with that in mind seems like that maybe isn't 100% the best idea. I would like it if you could just have puzzles where I could just do it with strangers that wouldn't be that wouldn't have to emphasize communication that much, which I know it seems weird. It kind of goes against the idea of even playing cooperatively. If you're like, hey, can I do this without actually having to interact with my team? But then again, you can shoot down a bunch of people without having to actually interact with your team, at least on that level. So why not? Other than that, like, the world looks pretty cool. I want to spend more time with it. I didn't really read much of the like database stuff just because I just didn't want to waste time doing that. And I love reading that kind of stuff, but just for the limited time I had, I was like, okay, I kind of want to play as much as I can, so I can't sit around and read it. But the world seems like, just again with the brief time I had with it, it seems like there could be something there, but there's something there's an element of blandness to it too, and I'm not entirely sure what it is, but maybe it's that a lot of the NPCs I met in the I forgot the name. What's the name of the hub world where you're in first person and get your missions? I forgot. But talking to the people in there, and then there's, the one cutscene with the guy that splits into three. Like, none of the characters, at least that in my opinion, stood out to me as anything special or anyone that I would want to talk to. They kind of had the dialogue choice thing, which seemed pretty meager compared to BioWare's other games, like Mass Effect or Dragon Age, where you kind of have multiple options. At least in this area, you only had like maybe two. And none of them seemed all that different or it didn't just feel like it matters, like talking to people and just choosing stuff. Like, I didn't really feel like anything I said would really change anything or be that big of a deal. So I hope that there is a bit more to that in the real game, because that's always a big draw for BioWare, is just the storytelling and the choice-driven gameplay. Like, I want to feel like I'm shaping that world with the things that I say and the things that I do. So I hope that that's more of a thing in the actual game. But yeah, I was just kind of I guess underwhelmed. Even though I had very measured expectations going in, I guess I don't know. So I can't even. It's hard to say if I was underwhelmed. Maybe I'm just whelmed, just middle of the road reaction of just like, oh, this was fine, it was okay, it was whatever. I really hope that game's good. I would like a new BioWare game that I can actually get behind and kind of wash away the bad taste that Mass Effect Andromeda left in my mouth. Other than that, I'm still trucking through Resident Evil 2. Still haven't finished Leon's campaign, but I'm deep into it. I am in the back half of it. I'm underground. So if you're a Resident Evil 2 fan, you have an idea of where I'm at. Still loving it. Still terrifying. But still definitely one of my very early favorites of the year. I'm also still trucking through Diablo 3, which I haven't really talked about since I think the first episode of this show. I just got to the second act in the story. That game has become my primary kind of podcasting game. It's always good to have a good podcast game. I listen to a lot of podcasts. And I like having something to do in the background because I don't have the attention span to just sit down and listen to something. So that game's story, I'm not engaged with it enough to want to or need to hear everything. And a lot of those dungeons, you're going a long time not listening to stuff. Like, I have the subtitles turned on for kind of the little character chatter when you're walking around, so I can just read what they're saying if they decide to chime up. But other than that, I'm still having fun with Diablo. Don't care much about the story. I got a cool cutscene with angels and an angel guy falling to earth. That was pretty neat. But you know what? Sometimes games don't have to blow me away with the story if everything else around it is fun, and especially if it's performing in the way that you want it to perform. And like I said before, like, this is serving me very well as a great podcast game. Haven't picked up Yakuza 0 in a while just because I'm kind of had to shelve it for Resident Evil 2 and Kingdom Hearts 3, so probably when I finish Resident Evil, I'll get back to that. It sucks. That game's so good, but like, it's also very long, and every time I want to play it, a big game comes out, so I kind of have to keep hitting the pause button on it. I've also still got this copy of Crackdown, the original Crackdown that I mentioned a few episodes ago, that I still need to crack open and kind of just run around and to get a feel for it before Crackdown 3 releases in about 10 days. So I'll see if I'm able to do that. Another game that I haven't started yet is the second episode of Life is Strange 2. I keep forgetting I have it. That's kind of the big thing. Is like, oh yeah, it came out. I got to get to that because I really enjoyed that first episode. So maybe this week I can squeeze in, just sit down and bang that thing out. But other than that, yeah, kind of the big two are Kingdom Hearts and Resident Evil. Can't wait to get through those. And as always, I'd love to hear what games you're playing. Drop me a line, let me know. At my Twitter, MarcusStewart7. That is the number 7. And with that little social media plug, let's tie a bow on this episode of Marcus Talks About Games. Thanks for listening, guys. As always, like, share, and subscribe with your friends. Find the show on YouTube at Marcus Makes Media. That's the name of the YouTube channel where you'll find this podcast as well as my other podcasts that I've done. You can also find the show on SoundCloud at that same name, Marcus Makes Media. Finally, you can also download and subscribe to the show on iTunes at Marcus Writes About Games. Yeah, it's still on that old moniker. I will eventually change it to Marcus Makes Media, but for now, it's still Marcus Writes About Games if you are looking for it on iTunes. So until next week, guys, thanks for listening as always. Keep on gaming and have a great day.